Hello and a very warm welcome to another edition of World Panorama. Like always, get ready to catch up on the biggest international news of the week. I'm Sana Khan. Before we get to detailed reports, a look at the top stories. North and South Korea hold first high-level talks in 7 years. Family reunions to go as per schedule. We take a closer look. Is the Syrian process on the verge of collapse? Last-ditch effort by Lakhdar Brahimi to save the deadlocked Geneva II peace talks. Storm bringing deadly ice and snow slams US East Coast. At least 21 killed, thousands of flights grounded. And later on the show, World Panorama gets you a glimpse of some action from the Sochi Games. Our top story, warring neighbours North and South Korea on Friday agreed that they would hold a reunion for families divided by the Korean War as planned. The two sides also agreed to stop exchanging verbal insults and to continue their nascent dialogue at a convenient date. The talks were the first substantive follow-up to statements by the leaders of both countries, that's South Korean President Park Geun-Hye and North's Kim Jong-Un, professing a desire for improved inter-Korean ties. Now, the families' reunion has been scheduled for 20th to 25th of February at North's Mount Kumgang resort. North Korea had earlier insisted that the South must postpone the February talks and, in fact, the start of its annual military drills with the United States until after that reunion is over. Millions of Koreans were separated by the 1950-53 war, and the vast majority have since died even without having had any communication at all with the surviving relatives. Up to 73,000 South Koreans are waitlisted for a chance. That's just to give you an idea to take part in one of such reunion events. This planned event will see around 180 relatives reunited. Now, the development sure seems to be positive, but there's still scope for challenges for the reunion to go through as planned. Or are things much better settled than they have been in the past? Now, what's the way ahead? Let's talk more about this. This week on the show, I welcome Professor Sandip Mishra. He's a professor at the Delhi University. Thank you so much, Professor Mishra, for joining me on the show. Now, before we start talking to you about what's happening here, let's have a look at this report that I've compiled for our viewers.
Warring neighbours North and South Korea on Friday agreed that they would hold a reunion for families divided by the Korean War as planned. The deal was reached at the high-level talks, the second such meeting in 3 days at the border village of Panmunjom that separates the two Koreas.
첫째, 남과 북은 이산가족 상봉을 예정대로 진행하기로 하였습니다. 그 신뢰의 첫 걸음이, 첫 단추가 이산가족 상봉 행사이기 때문에 우선 믿고 행사를 그대로 진행을 시켜야 된다. 그런 설득을 많이 했고, 북측에서도 일단 그러면은 우리 측이 그렇게 얘기하니까 믿고 한번 해보자, 그런 차원에서 합의를 했습니다.
North Korea had earlier insisted that the South must postpone the February 24th start of its annual military drills with the United States until after the reunion is over. Seoul and Washington say the annual exercises are defensive in nature and have nothing to do with the reunions of families separated by the 1950 and 1953 Korean War.
한미 연합훈련을 이산가족 상봉 행사 이후로 연기할 것을 요구하였습니다. 우리 측은 이산가족 상봉은 순수한 인도적 사안으로 정치-군사적 사안과 연결돼서는 안 된다는 점을 강조하고 수용할 수 없음을 분명히 하였습니다.
On his visit to Seoul, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said that North Korea should not link annual military exercises later this month with reunions of separated Korean families.
The United States does not believe that it is appropriate to link a humanitarian issue such as reunification with any other issue.
An eventual compromise on the overlapping family reunions and military drill signals a willingness to explore other, far more contentious issues. The Korean War between 1950 to 1953 was a war between the Republic of Korea, South Korea, supported by the United States, and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, North Korea, at one time supported by China and the Soviet Union. It was primarily the result of the political division of Korea by an agreement of the victorious allies at the conclusion of the Pacific War at the end of the World War II. The Korean peninsula was ruled by the Empire of Japan from 1910 until the end of the World War II. Following the surrender of the Empire of Japan in September 1945, American administrators divided the peninsula along the 38th parallel, with US military forces occupying the southern half and Soviet military forces occupying the northern half.
All right, Professor Mishra, now we tried to show our viewers a glimpse of what really happened and what really started this enmity between North and South. But I want to hear from you. Why is there so much talk about these reunions, and why was there so much controversy, and then, you know, conditions being laid out? Explain to us.
I think two issues are involved here. One is actually family reunion, which is, you can say, everybody recognizes it's a humanitarian issue. Right. In the sense, old family members who have been separated for the last 60 years, they need to see each other again, if possible, and actually share about their experiences. So that issue has nothing to do with politics of Korean Peninsula. That's one thing which definitely we need to recognize. Why I'm saying, because, you know, many of them, they are passing away every day. Means every, you can say 1 month, one member of that separated family, usually they die, because they're too old now.
So that is one that is an emotional issue.
Yeah.
That should be kept aside from the politics.
And the second part of general hostility, general, you can say, disagreements between South and North Korea, that must be, in a way, it's a political issue, and it must be politically resolved. Having said that, I will say that these two issues, they must be kept separately, because otherwise these people who are suffering because of division of Korean Peninsula, their suffering will further increase if they are not allowed to meet each other.
Absolutely. In fact, what would you say about these high-level talks that took place between the North and the South after a gap of 7 long years? Do you see this as a positive step?
I definitely feel that it's a positive step, because, you know, the new government which came to power in South Korea, I think started in February 2013. They promised that they are going to have a trust politic between South and North Korea. Trust politic means that they promise that they are going to engage North Korea. They promise that they are going to create an environment of trust between South and North Korea. And then on, actually, they will further consolidate their bilateral exchanges. But somehow it was not happening in the last 1 year. Previous government in South Korea, which had 5-year terms, in those 5 years also, inter-Korean relations, it was not in a very bad shape. It was not in a good shape. So I think last several years, I think the trajectory of inter-Korea relations have been not in a positive, you can say, track. And I'm very optimistic that any beginning is very good beginning. I think.
What do you think has led to this change, you know, suddenly? Because even in these talks, first the North Korea said that, you know, the South has to stop with these military drills. Then they said they have to delay these military drills. What is happening on the North side? Because we've known North to be a bit more aggressive on their stance, but they softened their stance this time. Can you explain to us why this softening of the stance?
I think here also two issues are involved. One is that, you know, recently you might have heard about uncle of Kim Jong-Un, leader of North Korea, Chang Sak-taek. He was executed publicly. Right. And it basically means that domestic political situation in North Korea is not very stable. So probably the new leadership wants to show that they are doing something very positive, constructive. They are taking initiative, and you can say, and it has been positively responded by South Korea. So I think that's one, to stabilize, to legitimize his position. And that's one reason. The second reason could be that, you know, late February, like 25th of February, US and South Korea, they are going to have their annual joint military deal.
Right.
And North Korea, every year, they have been very, you can say, uncomfortable with this joint military exercise. So probably this new initiative from North Korea comes out of a desire that probably this deal, either it should be stopped, or if possible, at least reduce the extent of the drill, like the bombers and actually the arms and ammunitions, the level of exchanges, the number of military personnel involved, that must be reduced substantially. So because of these two objectives, I feel that North Korea has actually ventured into this so-called peace
Okay.
initiative.
Indeed, a very positive sign, but also do you think the North's position, the position that it took, was somewhat also influenced, if I can use this word, by John Kerry's visit, to this part of the world?
I will like to link this positive gesture from North Korea with China rather than actually United States. Okay. Because I personally feel that last year, March, April onwards, when situation escalated to a very dangerous level at the Korean Peninsula, then on China had been uncomfortable with North Korean provocative behavior. Okay. And China had been secretly, there are reports, unconfirmed reports, but there are reports that actually China had been trying to persuade North Korea to be more positive.
Yeah, but for the benefit of our viewers, let's also lay it out clear that North Korea is, its ally is China, and the US backs the South Korean side, right?
Yes. So I think that's one very important, you can say, angle to look at North Korean positive, you can say, initiative. But overall, I will also suggest that we need not to think too much about this so-called first high-level talk and you can say South and North Korea coming together having negotiation, because in history several times South and North Korea, they have talked to each other. They had two summit meeting in 2000. Kim Dae-jung from South Korea and Kim Jong-il from North Korea, they had meeting. 2007. Next president of South Korea, Roh Moo-hyun and Kim Jong-il, again they had another summit meet. But the basic problem between South and North Korea has been that, especially after 2008, when a conservative government came in power, South Korea, then on the trust level between South and North Korea, it has gone very dramatically actually down. And that is basically fundamental problem between South and North Korean relations.
So it'll take a change of government in the South perhaps for things to be better, or is there another solution for the two sides?
I feel that there could be two, you can say, possibility. One is that if let's say a progressive government comes to power in South Korea, that would be quite, you can say, positive, but I think that's not going to happen next 4 years, because recently a new government came to power in South Korea. The second option could be, since this current president in South Korea, she has also talked about trust politics, engagement politics. The only thing is that the engagement and trust efforts, initiative, they must be at least, you can say, repeated twice or thrice. Concessions must be provided to North Korea, and then only probably, because trust politics means when you are dealing with your rival, you say that you trust, you can't force your rival to trust you. You have to start trusting your rival. And then actually probably your rival will respond.
Reciprocate.
So I personally feel that if few times South Korea makes some concessions and start trusting North Korea, then I think probably North Korea. So this whole rivalry of, you can say, vicious cycle, that will convert into a virtuous cycle, and things may improve.
All right. So for now, we are looking forward to these reunions. It's a positive step, as you said, and we all agree. And let's hope many more meetings take place between the two nations. On that note, thank you so much, Professor Mishra. It was a pleasure having you on World Panorama.
Thank you very much.
We're taking a short break here. Lots more in store up ahead. A report on the peace talks in Syria. Have the Geneva talks been substantial? Stay tuned to know more. Thanks for staying with us. High-level Russian and US diplomats promised to help keep Syria peace talks alive in Geneva as they reached a deadlock. Russia presented a rival UN resolution on the humanitarian crisis in Syria to key Security Council members after saying they would veto a Western and Arab-backed measure threatening sanctions against the country. Now, the situation in Syria, meanwhile, has deteriorated as Syrian warplanes pounded a rebel-held town near the Lebanese border. The talks have been accompanied by a sharp rise in violence on the ground in Syria. US and Russian officials weighed into Syria peace negotiations at the United Nations on Thursday, meeting with international negotiator Lakhdar Brahimi to try to breathe new life into the troubled talks. Opposition and government delegations have struggled to find common ground in the second round of discussions at the UN in Geneva.
They have kindly reaffirmed their support to what we are trying to do and promised that they will help both here and in their capitals and elsewhere to unblock the situation for us, because until now we are not making much progress in this process.
بالنهاية موقفنا واضح، إذا ما بدنا ننقل سوريا لدولة جديدة ونخلص من هذا النظام ورأس هذا النظام، فبعتقد الحل بالنهاية راح يكون ضمن العمل العسكري وضمن سوارنا اللي عم يقاتلوا على الأرض، وبإذن الله راح يكونوا منتصرين.
Russia submitted a draft resolution on Syria to the UN Security Council. The new draft aims to facilitate the delivery of aid to Syrian civilians and includes other items from the original Western and Arab text. However, it excluded an earlier provision which required Syrian President Bashar-Al-Assad's government to resign.
Мы исходим из того, что все проблемы в регионе Ближнего Востока и Северной Африки должны решаться исключительно мирным путем, через инклюзивный диалог, без попыток изолировать кого-либо или навязывать что-либо извне, и на основе уважения права народов на самостоятельный выбор форм и методов государственного управления.
Earlier this week, Russia confirmed it would reject a similar document submitted by the West, saying it was biased against the government of Assad. Meanwhile, UN Aid Chief Valerie Amos urged the United Nations Security Council to act to increase humanitarian access in Syria. Getting aid to desperate civilians, she said, should not be a matter of controversy or politics.
For us, given the gravity of the situation on the ground, better no resolution than a bad resolution. We are not interested in a resolution for resolution's sake. As we intensify our discussions, we have to find text that we think maximizes the likelihood of meaningful consequences on the ground. The kind of levers, the pressure, the enlistment of the full council, and again, strong resolution is one that is unanimous like we got on chemical weapons. So we are looking for a text that is going to make a meaningful difference on the ground. I think that's probably all I should say at this point. We are just really rolling the sleeves up and trying to decide and agree upon the strongest possible text.
Inside Syria, the violence is escalating amid attempts to broker a peace deal in Geneva. Bashar al-Assad's forces and fighters from Lebanese ally Hezbollah have pounded Syria's strategic border town of Yabrud in apparent preparation for a new offensive to flush out rebels. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said more than 200 people had been killed every day for the past 3 weeks as both government forces and rebels were trying to gain territory. And a giant winter storm unleashed a second wave of heavy snowfall on the U.S. Northeast as hundreds of thousands of people remained without power in the states in its southern wake. The storm has been blamed for at least 22 deaths now. About 550,000 homes and businesses are still in the dark, and almost 1,000 flights were cancelled in a single day.
Yet another storm paralyzed the Northeast with heavy snow and sleet on Thursday. More than 700,000 people, including residents of Georgia and South Carolina, hit by a heavy blast of ice, were without power as the storm made its way up the coast, closing much of Washington and threatening to drop up to 18 inches of snow in some areas.
Of course, van's got no weight, so it got stuck. So I'm going in and get the store ready, and we're going to get in a four-wheel drive vehicle, and we will be out there delivering people's flowers today.
It's been very quiet this morning. There's hardly been any cars. I thought yours was actually stuck. And it's nice because there's, as you can see, where I've been before, I've been the only person coming down the street.
At least 21 deaths were blamed on the treacherous weather, including that of a pregnant woman struck by a mini snowplow in New York City parking lot as she loaded groceries into her car. Washington, D.C. residents received 9 inches of snow. New York City received nearly 10 inches, and parts of New Jersey had more than 11 inches.
In my travels around so far today, things are moving more slowly, of course. But what the state does when it makes its declarations is about enabling localities to do certain things and enabling state agencies to do certain things. We've made abundantly clear that we know this city is functioning and that the city agencies are doing their job, and that given the information we had, it was right to go ahead with school. It's not something you do lightly to close school.
Around the country, this is shaping up as one of the snowiest winters on record. As of early this month, Washington, Detroit, Boston, Chicago, New York and St. Louis had gotten roughly 2 or 3 times as much snow as they normally receive at this point in the season.
Much else has been unfolding around the world. Here's a quick wrap of the other international news of the week.
An American ship en route to Italy to collect and destroy highly toxic substances that are part of Syria's chemical weapons arsenal arrived in Spain on Thursday. The vessel will depart Rota once Syria has completed the removal of the chemicals. The United States plans to neutralize the chemicals at sea in international waters using proven hydrolysis technology. The next major deadline is March 31st, by when the most toxic substances are supposed to be destroyed outside Syria. Russia's President Vladimir Putin has said he backs Egypt's military chief, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, in his bid for the presidency. Putin, meeting Field Marshal Sisi in Moscow to discuss an arms deal, said he was aware of his decision to run. However, there has been no announcement on the matter from the Egyptian side. Ukrainian opposition party UDAR, led by boxing champion Vitaly Klitschko, called on workers to walk out on Thursday to demand a return to the constitution of 2004, punishment of those accused of violence against protesters, and the establishment of a technical government. On Thursday morning, about 500 UDAR supporters and striking workers marched through the streets of Kyiv, urging Ukrainians to join the strike. Thai government said the election commission has to complete the vote within 30 days or face legal action. Thailand's election commission said it would try to complete this month's disrupted poll in late April, leaving the country facing another 2.5 months in political limbo under a caretaker government with limited powers. Hundreds of thousands of Yemenis on Tuesday celebrated the 3rd anniversary of the 2011 uprising that led former President Ali Abdul Saleh to step down. Yemenis gathered at squares and governorates around the country. Tens of thousands gathered on Al-Shitin Street in the capital. The Supreme Coordinating Committee of the Youth Revolution organized the festival to mark the occasion. A spectacular volcano eruption in Indonesia killed 2 people and forced mass evacuations, disrupting long-haul flights and closing international airports on Friday. Mount Galud, considered one of the most dangerous volcanoes on the main island of Java, spewed red-hot ash and rocks high into the air late on Thursday night, just hours after its alert status was raised.
Shifting gears, time to bring you up to speed with all the sports news that you might have missed through the week. We focus on Sochi Winter Games.
American Kathleen Farrington stunned 3 former champions to win the Olympic gold medal in the women's snowboarding halfpipe by the narrowest of margins at the 2014 Sochi Winter Olympic Games. The 24-year-old nailed her second run to score 91.75 and claimed the title ahead of Australia's defending champion Tora Bright, who was awarded 91.50 for her second effort. Russians Tatiana Volozohar and Maxim Trankov produced a striking free skate to become the first figure skaters to grab 2 gold medals at the same Olympics by winning the pair's title. 3 days after triumphing in the team competition, Volozohar and Trankov performance to Jesus Christ Superstar left the couple in tears and the home crowd roaring. The men's ice hockey competition began with Sweden beating Czech Republic 4-2 in their Sochi Winter Games ice hockey opener on Wednesday. Switzerland also made a winning start, a 1-0 victory over a battling Latvia, but the tournament kicks into high gear when the big 3 of Canada, the United States and Russia take to the ice on Thursday. Simon Moser fired home the winner in the dying seconds to give the Swiss a heart-stopping 1-0 victory over Latvia. In the 5th session of the men's curling round-robin competition, China made it 4 wins out of 4 by beating Germany 11-7. Elsewhere, Britain beat Switzerland 4-2, Canada won 7-4 against Russia, and Denmark enjoyed an 8-5 victory over Sweden.
Time now for the very latest news from the world of movies, music and lifestyle. A look at our entertainment wrap. George Clooney and his cast of The Monuments Men whipped the British capital into a frenzy, with hundreds of fans trying to catch a glimpse of Clooney, Matt Damon, Bill Murray, John Goodman, Jean Dujardin and others as they arrived at the movie's red carpet premiere. There, the stars patiently signed autographs and took pictures with fans. The Monuments Men hit cinemas in the UK on 14th February. A Beatles tribute band reenacted the iconic group's first US performance at the same building the Fab Four made their American debut 50 years ago. The tribute band Beatlemania now kicked off the concert with the Beatles song Roll Over Beethoven. The band played the same set list the Beatles played 50 years ago at Washington Coliseum. Musician George Michael released the video for the first single for his new album Symphonica. The track Let Her Down Easy was co-produced by George Michael and Phil Ramone. The Careless Whisper singer has sold an estimated 100 million records over his career, but he has hit the headlines for his personal life in recent times. The album and single Let Her Down Easy will be released on 17th March. Michael Kors merged his big city attitude with the country for fall 2014. The New York native debuted a collection full of elegant comfort at the Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week in New York. Kors stayed on trend by featuring skirts with embroidered detail. The designer maintained a color palette of charcoals, blacks, chocolate, with pops of white throughout the line. Comic showman Sid Caesar, a pioneer of American television sketch comedy as the star and creative force of Your Show of Shows during the 1950s, died on 12th February at the age of 91. The veteran entertainer has been ill for at least a year. While he enjoyed a career on TV, film and stage that spanned 6 decades but was marred by years of substance abuse, he is best known for his work with comedian Imogen Coca on the landmark Your Shows of Shows, which aired on NBC from February 1950 to 1954. That's all we have for you in this edition of World Panorama. See you next week, same time with more international news. Till then, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. As I sign off, take a look at how Valentine's Day was celebrated. What better place to be than the city of love itself, Paris. Spread the love. Goodbye.